Alright, now we are ready to really start looking into this book and figuring out what actually is theory. So this is your slides, your notes on Chapter 3, Social Behavioral Theory and its Roots. Be sure you're following along with your PowerPoints. You can go ahead and print those off or have them up on your screen as you're also listening to the video. Make sure you also go back and study them. Don't just watch just this lecture and then be done. And make sure you're also reading your textbook. There are questions from your quizzes that come from your textbook, that come from these slides, that come from what I'm saying, and the videos that are also included within this PowerPoint. So make sure you're watching and doing all of those things to be successful. So theory. When you hear theory, what is it? What do you think about when you hear theory? Theory is a concept that most students, may be new. It's not something you really learn about, you've heard. You may have heard about it in regards to science or an experiment back in even middle school or high school. But what really is theory? So, theory is really the basis for all health research and programs. If we, as health educators, really want to change a health behavior, we have to understand it. Theory allows us to do just that, okay? So, in order to have an impact on health behavior, it's necessary to understand it. It makes sense, right? You can't change something that you don't understand, okay? Think of it this way. If you're asking an organization for funding to help you reduce a specific health behavior, you have to be able to justify why you think your way is going to work. Theory can help be that justification. Okay? Theory is a tool for explaining behavior. Therefore, we must use and understand theory. So, there are different models within theory, right? But theories are really simply explanatory statements or models that can help explain the behavior. They can be short statements or they can be big, elaborate models. You're going to see different types throughout the book. Some are short, some are just a few paragraphs maybe. Some of them are big models that show different ways relationships occur and everything within a health behavior. Okay? The roots of the current health behavior theory. You'll see as we explore all the different theories this semester that a majority of the health theories come from psychology and social psychology. If you think about it, this makes sense. Okay, let's take an example. Take alcohol abuse, for example. While alcohol abuse is absolutely a health behavior, right? The behavior of drinking excessive amounts of alcohol. That's a health behavior, that's a health concern. There's a lot of things related to that that make us worried and concerned. The behavior often results in a psychological disorder known as alcoholism. Alcoholism is actually classified as a mental health illness. That being said, health theories also incorporate a number of other fields. So it's not just psychology or sociology. It's things like anthropology, community theory, community communications. Lots of different things go into making up health behavioral theories, and we'll see a lot of those throughout the semester. Okay. When talking about Western tradition of theory, a couple of things to remember. First, order and regularity. This simply means that based on Western theory of tradition, the universe is ordered and regular. And this idea can really be carried over into health behavior. Second, if there is order and regularity, then there will be predictability. The basic idea here is that normal behavior has an order and regularity. Think gateway drug. Most people do not start with cocaine, but instead they begin with a gateway drug. While it's not a law or a rule that someone start with a gateway drug, it's usually followed. That's usually what happens. And therefore their health behavior can often be predicted as a result, right? So someone who is 13, 14 years old and already doing marijuana and everything else, there's a pretty good chance that that's going to lead to a behavior that's more extreme, more illegal drugs, right? It's predictable, right? You see people who are in with the wrong crowd in high school. Maybe they're hanging out with people who don't graduate. Typically they're the ones that just aren't doing well in school. those are the ones that you really see. They don't graduate. They join gangs. They do different things, and go from there. You can kind of predict it. So that's this whole idea right here. Empirical data. That's a term that a lot of students kind of struggle with, but it's really simple. Okay, it's simply data which is obtained through observation or experiments. Okay, so these data, they're collected maybe through a survey, maybe they're through an experiment in a lab. Any way you can collect data, that's simply what it is, okay? Through observation, experiments. So this idea is that within theory, it's important to have data to back up what you're saying. So as with anything, you have to have that rationale, you have to be able to quote unquote prove it, okay? Progress and perfectibility is the simple idea that as a society and world, we are moving forward and obtaining a better understanding of health behavior. So, you know, if you think back, 1960s, 1950s, no one really understood how bad tobacco use was, right? Now we know that smoking cigarettes, tobacco use causes lots of different forms of cancer. Especially think about like in pregnancy, that was not known. Parents, grandparents, a lot smoked. Their generation smoked during pregnancy. They did not have the understanding. Medical knowledge wasn't that far along, so we're progressing. We may not be perfect yet, we don't have all the answers, but we're moving in a direction of more knowledge. Okay, these are some different types and different ideologies that kind of come into creating and helping with a lot of these theories. Okay, behavioralist psychology explanation of theory is that there is a stimulus and there's a response. Okay, so something happens that stimulates a response. So most of you have taken general psychology or some form of psychology. In it, you probably learned about Pavlov's dog. Okay, Pavlov's dog is a perfect example of the stimulus and response. Be sure you click right here on Pavlov's dog and watch this YouTube video. Okay, it'll really refresh your memory, and those of you who haven't had a psychology class yet, it'll give you this idea. It's a perfect example so that you can remember it. Alright, behaviorist. This idea is that it's still used with behavior modification. Okay, think of the example given in the last video. Reinforcement is either positive or negative, and that can be a result of either the continued behavior or the quitting of the behavior. Cognitive psychology theory, or cognitive behavioral theory, is the idea that there is a thought process that goes into an action. Okay, this includes perception, memory, decision-making, reasoning, and more. Piaget is one of the most well-known cognitive psychologists, and you will learn tons more about him throughout the semester and his theory later. However, he and other cognitive psychologists focused on the development of the thinking process and how this impacts behavior. Okay, so this is really how you think through things, how you develop your thought process, any of those type of things, you really bring it in and you understand it, how that impacts your decision making, how that impacts your behavior, how, it can be things like how you think through your decision making process, something like, are you a quick decision maker, or do you take a really long time to make a decision? Are you someone that weighs pros and cons? Do you make a pro-con chart? Okay, that can impact your behavior. Alright, the next one, humanistic psychology. Okay, another form of thinking that influences theory is this. Okay, it focuses on individuals' capacity and that humans desire to grow and attain their full potential. Okay, Maslow's hierarchy of needs is a perfect example, so be sure to watch this video. It's a really good example of what this is. Okay, so click here to watch that video. Social psychology really focuses on how others impact our opinions, decisions, and behaviors. These theories focus on how others really influence our health behaviors. An example would be, say all of your friends are at a party drinking. You may decide to go ahead and drink as well, even though you had not planned to. You had gone to the party saying, I'm not going to drink, I don't want to drink, I have maybe work tomorrow, or I just don't drink. But you go and all your friends are there, and it kind of falls in that peer pressure. Okay, so that's kind of where the social psychology theories come in. The idea that, oh, your friends are skipping school. So why did you decide to skip school? Different things like that. We'll focus a lot on social psychological theories in the next coming weeks. I believe it's again next week. Okay. Sociology. So a number of you have taken a sociology course or an intro course in addition to your psychology classes. So sociology is just the study of how society and all of the groups within it interact. So sociology really includes a lot of other ideals that have already been discussed in this lecture. Okay, the influence sociology can have on health behavior really has to do with the social organization of the group. And this goes back to the idea of a lot of social psychology. So, how you interact in a social setting. Maybe you're an introvert who really just kind of likes to stand back and hang out, but you don't want to be excluded, so you might give in to peer pressure. Okay, so kind of how does that go through? All right, so there's a big overlap between sociology, psychology, and anthropology in explaining behavior. So don't stress too much on these specifics. Just know the general idea, because you're going to get plenty more examples. You're going to have theories and everything later in the course. Cultural anthropology focuses on how one's culture impacts their behavior. The people we are around usually are from the culture that we live in, right? You usually have people from your neighborhood, from your culture, from your church, different things like that. Those can all be your culture. So we all come from different cultures, even if we come from the same country, the same state, or even the same city. For example, you may have grown up in a very conservative culture where women often don't work outside of the homes. And this is really common in many parts of the world, especially other countries, that women, your only job is staying in the house, running the household, raising the kids. And that's the culture. So you don't always, and women and men in those areas, they don't think, women don't go to college in a lot of places. So that's a cultural thing a lot of times. So that culture would impact your behavior and what your expectations are. All right. Cultural anthropology can really impact how we approach health behaviors. Okay? So, for example, if you're from a culture that does not believe in vaccinations, you may choose not to vaccinate your child, and instead you may take more of a holistic approach to health. I worked with a lady once before whose husband is an acupuncturist, and they don't believe in vaccinations or any kind of medications, but instead they believe in acupuncture and that it can cure all that ails them from anything at all. And this decision was really based on the culture that they live in, surrounded by a lot of acupuncturists who believe very similarly. So that's just an example or two. Okay. Ecological and biological systems. This focuses on how the environment can really impact our behavior. We have a relationship with the environment in which we live, and this relationship can impact how we approach our health behavior. Okay. We all function within this interdependent systems where where you live and what you're around and everything really can impact what you're doing and your health behaviors. Okay. So hopefully that'll help explain some of this. I know some of these terms and stuff can be a little bit more difficult, which is why I really wanted to give you guys, some examples and overview on this. As always, be sure, if you're not understanding something, to let me know. I don't know that you have questions unless you communicate with me. Shoot me an email. We can set up a time. I'm always on campus at least 2 days a week. I've mentioned before, please make an appointment because I'm not here the same 2 days every week. I'm working on another project that has me going to Jackson and stuff some. So I don't want you guys to show up, especially those of you that aren't on campus, and I'm not here. But if you make an appointment, I promise I'll be in the office. So if you have a question, you want to make an appointment, you want to do anything, email is your best bet to get in touch with me because I always am checking my email no matter where I am. So send me an email, and you can send it through Canvas. You can send it to my MEW email, which is on the syllabus, and let me know. If you're not understanding anything of this, let me know. We'll go over that. Be sure to watch the videos, still read your chapter, and read through the slides carefully as well. I will talk to you soon.